here we are.
Today we thought that we're going to talk about the right timing method for your race, because it's not easy to know with all the alternatives that exist out there. So in this video, Hector and I will talk about the different options that you have, and depending on the nature of your race, one method may be better than the other. So let's start with comparing or explaining a little bit what app timing and chip timing means. So Hector, can you explain a little bit what is chip timing?
Yeah, so chip timing, as probably everyone is has been aware of some sort of chip timing. You've experienced it. You've run maybe a marathon or something where the chip has been built into your bib number, or you've maybe done a triathlon or some other type of race whereby the chip is a reusable chip that is strapped on with Velcro or whatever kind of strap onto your wrist, onto your leg, or some kind of tag you put on your shoe. These are all types of chips, and yeah, we call them chips, but really they're sort of transponders, transceivers that can bounce electromagnetic signals and respond to electromagnetic signals as you go through checkpoints, the start, the finish, etc. Okay,
and this means that everything goes automatically and the chips registers in the checkpoints, and
that's right.
You don't have to do anything, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So each chip is unique, has a unique identifier, and so yeah, when that chip goes through a checkpoint or the finish line, for instance, it knows, okay, this chip, which is coupled to your name, for instance, in the start list, okay, Fanny, she's gone through the finish, and then of course it matches up with the timing of the clock.
Cool. And can you do this yourself, or you have to hire someone to do chip timing?
Yeah, it's possible to do it yourself if you have the knowledge, if you have the hardware. But usually, for first timers, I would say, you want to hire a company or contact directly the manufacturer and the hardware and the software producer, match it all up, do a little test, or hire some professionals. Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, and if you're looking for a chip timing provider, Hector has put together a great article where he lists, I think it's 23 different ones that you can check out, and see which one is best for your local race. Yeah, so that is a little bit about chip timing. And if I'm a race with around 500 participants, which is chip timing good then for me?
Yeah, I would say chip timing starts to become like, sometimes it's not so cost effective when you have smaller amounts of participants, because of course there's a big fee related to the hardware, and in particular not just the chips themselves, but the other like timing hardware, so the mats and the antennas and all that equipment. So for smaller races, chip timing becomes too much of the financial cost, basically. So it's best to look at other alternatives. And in particular, races that are perhaps longer or spread out the participants more, then you can have more manual methods of timing. Obviously, manual methods are more cheaper, I should say. So yeah, basically I would say if for instance you have a trail race, quite tough, maybe quite long, 500 participants, and you're just getting 1, 2, 3 people every minute, or even 5 people every 20 seconds, we can deal with those kind of numbers in a more manual way with timing apps and these sort of things.
I see. So chip timing is essential when you have many racers crossing the finish line at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you're expecting sprint finishes between the top competitors, or bunch finishes, in cycle races, for instance, quite common on the road, and of course road races, shorter road races and such with many participants, mass participation, then yeah, you need the chip timing basically to handle that.
Cool. And then, but as Hector was mentioning, if you are a smaller race or maybe just starting out, there's also some other alternatives. The the most basic way you can take time on a race is, of course, with your smartphone or a stopwatch, where you just start the time and then manually press the stopwatch when each racer finishes. But then you have to manually write down the times, and it can be a little bit difficult. So, but there is actually a middle way. Can you tell us a little bit about app timing?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, app timing is essentially the digitalization of the pen and paper and just writing down number bibs. I mean, of course, everyone's very familiar with people who, standing, loving it with their stop clock on the start or the finish, and they set off the race and they're clicking through every runner and writing names and shouting times and such to each other. But the best way is the timing app, like you say. And the timing app is essentially the person at the finish or the person at the checkpoint who has access to the app. They're just pressing on the screen the number bib of the participant who's just come through that point. So, number 33 is coming through. Visually, you can see, okay, 33 coming. They cross the line. You press the button that says 33, and that automatically then has that number, has that time through the app. And
and then it comes up live, at least for RaceID.
Yeah.
You have a live result or a live checkpoint that
exactly.
spectators can follow in the RaceID app or online.
Yeah, because the device with the app is connected to the internet. So if you have the mobile signal or any internet, then it's just automatically transferring results onto the web like that. So yeah.
And actually, I think many people that use the app are concerned with if they're in the forest and they don't have reception. But then actually, if you use the same device, the data saves on that device and uploads to the internet when you have a good connection. So then people can see it. So it's not like you will lose your data either.
No, exactly. The data is like cached on locally on the device, and then it uploads afterwards. And that's it's often good enough, especially for smaller races, first-time races, perhaps. Cheap alternative, like we say, and super easy and fast, immediate results list at the end. A lot of our organizers are really enjoying the fact that they don't have to process any results at the end of their race. They can immediately just, look at the app and they see the results. They can hand out the prizes immediately and everyone's happy.
Cool. And how many participants can you handle with the timing app, you think?
Yeah, difficult to say. I mean, there's sort of no limit, but at the same time, the limit is the human aspect of it. So really, you need to think about, okay, how many people am I expecting to be crossing the line or crossing through a checkpoint at any given time? And that's sort of the limit for one person. It's possible to split. I would not really recommend it. You can have 2 people at the same place, 2 people on the finish line with the timing app. And so it can work like this, that one person takes the first person to cross and the next person takes the next person. Obviously that requires a bit of communication between the 2 people. But essentially, I would say 500, is probably what you would look at, like we talked about, as being a limit of maybe what you might want to try. With the app. But if you can try and be better than us, then be our guest. Let us know how many people you have been able to time with the timing app in a race. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, obviously, I think we have had, like Hector was talking about before, if you have a really long race. I think we ever had an ultra race that had thousands of participants, but then they come in, they spread out so long over the many hours, or extreme challenge, that's a whole day, and they have a bunch of participants, but they're doing just fine with the timing app. But then if you have a 5K race, I think it would be maybe difficult to do more than 200. So you really have to look at the nature of your race. And
absolutely. It's about that rate of participants crossing through a checkpoint. If you're having more than, say, 10 to 15 a minute, then you're starting to really put a pressure on the person who's finding the numbers, clicking through the numbers, and creating the correct results list. And of course it's possible to go back afterwards if you make a mistake. Go back afterwards, change it. It's kind of pretty easy actually.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, that same person still has that pressure of like getting the ones that are crossing through the line. So
For sure.
yeah. So I would say if the rate of people crossing a line or a checkpoint is more than 15 or 20 a minute, you should look for probably chip timing alternatives or automation alternatives. Yeah.
And then you always have the unknown racer button. I think that is quite come in handy.
Yeah, the unknown racer button is a useful feature, especially if somebody's, you know, they put their rain jacket on over the top of their number, or the bib number's fallen off, or whatever it is that can happen. You can just click the unknown racer, it logs the time, and you can go back afterwards and put in the right person to that place. So that helps and solves a lot of problems, when bib numbers are not visible or damaged or fallen off or whatever it is.
Sounds good. All right. I think you got a pretty good view of what could be the best chip timing or app timing solution for you. Just to recap a little bit. So if you're a new race organizer, you don't really know how many races you will get, but maybe it's less than 300, then the app timing is a good cost-effective solution. But if you have a large race and a lot of finishers coming through the finish line at the same time, then you should probably look at a chip timing provider. And of course, you can use RaceID registration with either alternative. And if you need any help with selecting your timing method or setting up your race, feel free to book a call with me or Hector. We're happy to help you get set up.